Hi, this is Mia. It's Thursday actually. My clock is usually slow. It looks like it's right. I have to reset it every day, a couple times a day. After 6:15, I had a task to do, and I had set aside Thursdays because it's the day that my kids need help with school, and appointments, and my daughter's doing a volunteer thing. We haven't had a chance to ride the bus, and it's not on the main bus line, and it actually is. It'd be It literally would be faster, I think, to walk than it would be to ride the bus, but dark, twisty, narrow hilly roads through the suburbs and through, back roads where people will. I just hate that. Like, she could ride the bus there. The main bus goes there, but then the secondary bus is like, doesn't come very often. And then even then, the main bus is like a 5-minute bus ride, which is the bulk of the time, and then you have to get on a different bus that doesn't run very often, and hopefully not miss it, and then you still have to walk like a mile or something ridiculous. And I was going to ride the bus with her. This is different than her work, but I committed. We have to meet her teacher anyway, and we were trying to clump everything up into this day, which also conflicts with midwifery. Last week I dropped her off and went to midwifery. I was supposed to be at my own job. I'm not counting the midwifery hours for my self-employment because it's not. It may be contributing to my future employment, but it's not contributing to. Yeah, if I ever actually pass, it's not contributing to this employment now. And I want to make sure that I'm, getting my whole 40 hours. This morning I didn't feel good, and I still committed that time to my kid. I wanted to work more with this. Unfortunately, today I had a lot of paperwork to do, and there's groups in my community that I've been neglecting. Makes me feel like family and community, and yesterday I said, to myself, oh my gosh, you're missing appointments, you're feeling guilty, you're really sick, you're dealing with this auto accident, severe headache, severe pain. You ask people, you reached out for help, nobody responds, and then the people that respond are psychos that will make stuff up and then make you feel bad for no reason whatsoever. It's like, do they seriously have some kind of mental disorder? Because it's like, wow, like where, like, is this a side effect of your, because some people are just jerks, but some people are like psycho jerks. It's really scary. What comes out of their mouth, and some of these people I've tried to block from my phone, Facebook and stuff. Unfortunately, some of them live very close and spy on us, and I just can't get away from it. So I'm like, dang, I need to go to my office. I'm to my daughter some stuff I've been getting from one of the insurance companies I credentialed with in the spring, I think. They've been calling and emailing me, them and another agency that handles some of their paperwork online. They've been calling and emailing me since spring because I didn't complete one of the steps of the process. And I was trying to read the fine print today, realizing I don't think that this company is going to really put me up on their panel with me not completing that step. And that this company and the middleman company, I'm realizing there's all of these pertinent, and time sensitive, every step. You have to prove this, prove that. Your licensing and all this stuff. And I've been neglecting doing it. And I have been focusing my energy. So I knew that I would call this a college. I'm doing this, I'm working, taking care of kids, I'm working on this company, trying to be a doula, even though some of the stuff I didn't even want to do, the health products I really wanted to do, that also takes time, patience, and a source of raw materials. But I actually had felt like, man, this is going to take forever. I have all these little bits and pieces of things I'm going to put together, and next spring, next summer, it's going to be pulled together like a cerclage, which is like the surgery they do when someone's cervix comes open prematurely to try to stitch it closed by making all these stitches that they end up pulling. And they pull like this, and then they end up pulling some of those strings out. Like, I think they try to go around that part and sew it together after they pull the string. And a lot of times I've seen the cerclage, the actual main thread, just rip right through the cervix because it's so soft that it doesn't hold. You know, like if you cut your arm and you get stitches, the skin is very tough. It will hold it. Occasionally it will come apart, but it's very easy just to go in a little bit out from the wound. I was thinking in my heart that I was doing all this stuff. It was overwhelming. I said, just be patient with yourself. Just keep working. Just keep trudging through. Just keep picking away at this paperwork and organization skills. And don't worry about making money for my career and all this stuff. And then when I lost my job, it's like, okay, just get another job. Who cares about anything else right now? And then everyone in my life was like, oh, you're just sitting around all day. Why don't you just do this and do this and do this and give me a go out for sitting here at this desk with stacks. You know, I've got stacks of stuff, and surprisingly I've been really organized. I've got like these to-do stacks, and like this desk right here is for keyboard, this drawer, and unfortunately there's no back because it's for keyboard, old-fashioned style. And once this thing is full and I close it, it'll avalanche out the back, like the way that those games with the gold coins were just like, and one more falls down, and one more falls down, and then all of a sudden, they all fall supposedly down and up. Like, this shelf is like that, so I have to do this more than that. And I've been pretty good at filing, not even anymore in this type of file. I'll use these type of files sometimes. Some of these files I have in here, like this, has been like, alright, you need to actually file that, and I don't have one right now. It's downstairs to tabs, the hanging file cabinets, file folders with the binder clips, and then I have this label maker. It's not the most efficient, but it's neat and it's fast and it works. And you can print small and legible compared to personal handwriting, and much faster than... I haven't really printed much from my computer. I actually need to make labels for potential... I was setting up to actually have medications and supplements, and after the janitor was telling me to keep morphine in there, I'm just like, I'm not taking anything in there, but at the same time, I need to take and get something that locks to the wall cabinet with just a few supplements that I can sell or give as free samples. And then the state was telling me that I needed a way to label it, so I was going to get my I have a couple of over-the-counters from where I used to work, from the tea stuff. You know, people order stuff online, they don't care, but when I ordered stuff, especially when I became a licensed doctor, they'd like write it out like it's a real prescription, like you're going to the drugstore, like print it on there, who's your doctor, how many refills, etc., etc. And I'd be like, this is over the counter, like anyone off the street could come and order this. But they, you think about, oh yeah, there's regulations and it protects you to follow, like some things, a few things this place is based on the so-called like homeopathics that are people say are placebos. Some of them are actually restricted and you cannot buy them over the counter, and you have to have a prescription by a licensed physician. For the same people thing would still say it's against the law for you to just go to the counter and purchase it, but these 1,000 other ones you can. I understand, and where they're coming from as far as the name of the substance, but as far as what I know about the dilution factor, it's weird. But then there's been some studies supposedly that I've never really delved into, where the homeopathics were finding, they were doing chemical testing, whatever, and actually finding the product. So say if it was aluminum, they would find aluminum was highly diluted. There's not really a trace of that substance left, but the energetics is still there inside of that solution that is made, and then put on sugary lactose pills, which I don't like. I don't deal with sugar, and I don't deal with lactose, but are like milk products, so I find that quite interesting. And it's also dissolved in alcohol. It's like all those things. So it was like when I was in the car, because that's what I chose to do instead of prescription meds. That was my choice, at the time. Besides the herbal supplements, and when it's not as diluted and the number is smaller, so like a 200C is more diluted than a 30C, but a 2M is more diluted than a 200C. So there is occasion, there's several things you see online as mixed products, which I don't like, that say 1X. I don't understand. They'll be 2X, HS, or such and such people, or what, I don't remember. It might be HSUP, whatever it is, because I don't like to use these products. I've ordered some of these products online before, thinking that they were herbal combinations, and then finding out they're homeopathic. I personally do not like to take mixed homeopathics. I like to take them as separate and prescribed by my physician. So that's just my opinion. Not everyone does it. People love the mixtures and the combination. Take drops of this and then shake it up and use that and put it in water. There's some others. Homeopathics. I was looking for a substance that used to be over the counter, and also sold medicinary. FDA is like, oh, we want you guys to make it food grade or whatever grade, and even though the substance was the same, it'd be like, I mean, we were just talking about kosher versus non-kosher, or halal meat versus non-halal. It's like, there's a difference there, I know. But it's almost sometimes like, this one's chicken, this one's chicken. So somewhere in there, this one has to be to your qualifications, or you're not going to eat it. Or are you realizing that this isn't necessarily going to kill you, but maybe you'll eat it once in a while, or depending how strict your diet is right now, or maybe it's based on a month, depending on your preference. So FDA would be like, it has to be official. All this product started being over the counter and almost impossible to find. In fact, they were selling one capsule $3 a pop, and I was like, dude, that sucks. You can buy the unofficial one on Amazon for $7, a pound, or of powder, and it's like, this is stupid. And I looked up and down all the stores. I knew that someone had said that FDA stopped approving that. Other people were like, oh, you just go to the drugstore and buy it. And I'm thinking the drugstore, well, they're using the unofficial one. And I was like, dude, I want to use the official one. And let's just be official. Let's just follow the rules. And let's mark things and inventory things. And for me, I went up and down the health food stores because I'm like, sometimes things slip through the cracks at health food stores because they're not doctors, they're not health clinics, they're just a place where there's a whole bunch of counters. And one of the products was a homeopathic, and it was locally made, wide known. It was a homeopathic product mixture, and it had a filler ingredient or inactive ingredient, the main thing that I wanted. And sometimes that weirds me out too, because it's like, for this condition, that inactive ingredient is what I would use to treat it. But they're saying, no, this is a homeopathic, da-da-da, da-da-da. It's the homeopathic. And I'm not saying that I don't believe in homeopathics. I just felt like it's a little fishy that someone puts a certain medicine, they say it's going to work, and they advertise that, and one of the inactive ingredients could be aspirin. It's like, oh yeah, it takes your temperature, it takes your fever down, and you feel like it's going to be no fail, and you just use that one. For this case, the more I learned about homeopathics, the more I learned that I needed to individualize each remedy for specific people. Now, some general symptoms you can use, but I would like to get a good look at that individual, their diet, their upbringing, their emotional, mental state, etc., etc. Physical, we didn't judge as much, but I liked the individual. And so that's why I think a lot of people say that homeopathics are fake and placebos, because they never saw it work. But if you're the type like me and you're a doctor that spends a week trying to figure out exactly, looking through the books, what is perfect for you, then that's more likely to be the right match. And if it's not the right match, in this type of medicine, if it's not the right match, it doesn't work. And if it is the right match, you see it work immediately and you're like amazed. I've had some situations, and not talking to other people, I would be like, oh, I took this homeopathic, and the doctor, and we spent a lot of time figuring out what to take, and all of a sudden, I just couldn't stay awake, and I was sleeping on the ground in a sleeping bag, and I was just like, felt weird all over my body, and it was just this deep rest, healing type rest. You know, the animals can do that without substances, because they are instinctual and not having all this like learned behavior through the wild. Especially, animals can be sick or injured, and they can go and do what instincts and Mother Earth tells them to do. They can drink those certain water, they can lick the certain plant or mushroom, and rest a certain way, or sit in the sun, or sit in the shade, or sit in the water, or sit in the mud, or sit in the grass, or in a tree, and do, line go into, and it'll almost be like a tea, because it's got the substance of what they're licking off of is going into that water. And if it's super dilute too, it would be like the homeopathic, it would be energetic. But they can sense this stuff versus humans. Whenever I feel instinctual and want to do what my body's telling me to do, other people come after me for being defiant towards what they want me to do. Or when I got foods that I was intolerant out of my diet, I've been scolded. Like, it's like I see people in the news that are sex offenders or repeat rapists, or they decapitate people, and people will make a comment and move on that I'm going on the brink of anaphylaxis from eating corn. They will spend years harassing me about who do I think I am, how do you think you can't eat this, and so I was like, it's like the symptoms got worse and worse, and that very last time my body was just like, enough is enough, don't do it again, and I didn't do it again, and I'm very cautious. And even if I had an EpiPen, which I don't, why take a chance? If you have a peanut allergy, why take a chance? Why? People would say if you're starving to death and you have a peanut allergy, or your kid has a peanut allergy, just feed him peanuts. If you're starving to death, it's like, I'd rather feed him paper and make sure he has clean water, and that has nothing to do with these peanuts. Don't let him drink out of an old peanut jar. It's just like, if it's that horrible of a situation, like, you don't test yourself and then make yourself sick and then go take a medicine. That medicine is for oopsies. If you even have it available, that's for oopsies. And again, if you do have oopsies, you're supposed to anyways, to deal with the oopsies. And so it's really interesting to see how people, they won't even know their current news, and they'll scold me because as an adult I bypassed the corn. And people say that's a food staple. There's billions of people in the world that eat that every day. And it's like, yeah, I give it to my kids. They're one of those billions. But they don't have anaphylaxis. They don't have their throat closing up and not being able to breathe and covered head to toe in a rash and hives immediately upon eating. You know, I even have a little bit of trouble making the food for them. In fact, they complain when they eat it because they start getting symptoms. And I feel like that's happened to me. It started off mild and got worse and worse every time I ate it. So I just find it interesting as a grown person, even if it's at their house eating and they made the food and they bought the food, I don't need to endanger my life because of that. The same way as an alcoholic in recovery shouldn't be scolded for passing up a glass of wine. It's like, no, you have it. You get double. I have 0. I'll drink water. You have your wine. There's no reason to scold them. And I think some people feel bad because they feel like, oh, well, I have to be happy. And you're like, go ahead and be happy. You're normal. Then, you know, if the alcoholic is like, if I drink that, it's going to ruin my life. I'm going to end up homeless. I'm going to get divorced. I'm going to lose my kids. Like, they're like, been there, done that. Because they have this allergy to it. If someone's not alcoholic and they drink half a glass of wine and they dump the rest down the drain, that's their normal person who has a body that's not going to react violently towards that substance. But there's no reason. You know, some people don't like the taste of water. And don't scold them because they don't like the taste of water. Give them some juice. Then they won't get dehydrated, you know. You can't force them. If it's your own kid and they don't like it, you have a choice of what you want to do. When my kids didn't like certain things, and I had dealt with food intolerances, being sick as a kid and not knowing about food intolerances, when my kids started being picky about certain foods and certain textures and certain, like, tomato things with tomatoes he cannot handle. Some things with tomatoes he can. He even ate one time a burger with tomato, which I didn't know about. But he's like, I feel like he also got diagnosed with food allergies at one time, fruit. And I said, I wonder if it's all fruit. And they said, not melon, not this, not that. And they didn't give specifics, which was kind of stupid. But I said the food allergy was to apples. And at the time, grapes and bananas. Now he's opposed to grapes and bananas, but not apples. And not tomatoes. So it's like, you know, even having a scientific test kind of match up with my kid's preference, but it being a non-specific test, like someone could say, oh, I'm allergic to grains. They could be allergic to 1 or 10. But unless, you know, and it's interesting, someone might say, oh, I don't feel good when I eat that. And then they might do a scientific test and it matches up. Why not let them deal with that between them and their doctor, or them and their parent, or them and whoever's preparing and buying food? So I always wonder, you know, if I live in a cooperative house and we're doing meal planning and someone came up to me and said, I'm intolerant to tomatoes, then give them something alternative and don't put it on everything. Give them Alfredo sauce if they can have Alfredo sauce if they're pasta. Don't mix everything. Like, that would be the biggest reason that I would be interested in someone else's diet, not to scold them, but to be well-rounded and making sure that they can be accommodated. But I think too much, and I'm always like, I'm like the worst, I feel like, at feeling judged and scolded for things. So I hate it. I go to bed and I'm just like, dear God, why did they even let me live? It's like they're treating me like the worst criminal, and it's like, I do not want anyone else to feel the way I do on a daily basis and feel like you don't belong. And so I think I go out of my way to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself with someone else. And then once I realized people are entitled to their own opinion and they have freedom of speech. They can talk my shoe color all they want, and they can scold me, they can yell at me, they can bang on my car window when I get home and say, by the way, have I told you today how much I hate the color of your shoes? And just be like, that's your opinion. And it gets to a point, I think, personally, where they harass you on a daily basis, and they text you about it, and they email you about it, and they scold you about it, and every time you see them, they're in your face about it, and then that's when it's like, I just don't want to be around that person, because you tell them, what you're saying is hurting my feelings. And when they don't respect your boundaries, like, can you not talk about that? I understand you have those opinions, I understand how you feel. In discussion, do not talk about it. And so that's where a lot of people will continue to pick at you, and you feel like they're like the devil, finding something that irks you and continuing to pick at that wound, at that bruise, just keep hitting that same bruised area, and at the point, I feel like you have to just stop, just stop the entire relationship. As far as, there's someone skateboarding right outside my window, it's bothering me, because my car is right outside my window, and I'm like, people have their own personal space here. I don't understand why they don't stay in their personal space. But I'm going to go and finish my schedule 40 hours a week for the unemployment company. I really need to I knew that my kids have their school today, so I made my schedule morning to afternoon with a break, with like a couple hours break, and then another extension to my schedule. I started a little bit early today, before 9, and a little bit later last night, which I didn't log, but it's pretty much the next 20 minutes will make it, so that I'm at my time, and I'm trying to remember to try to log this stuff in case they audit me. But ultimately, there's one thing that I want to say, and I do have a friend that we text back and forth. She doesn't check her phone, so I should probably make sure I call her phone if I my friend feels the same way about me, or not about me, kind of feeling overwhelmed, had done a whole bunch of years of school, done a dual program, still trying to take the tests and the credentialing and work a different job, and then she lives, instead of living with kids, she lives with parents that are ill, and she's also a person of color, not black, but Asian American, from Asia, with parents from Asia, multilingual, and she's going through some things, and to me, I look at this person, she looks young, she's so sweet, she's busy, she kind of flakes out a little bit, I probably flake out a little bit, and she's very intelligent. She's cute little Asian food, though. I don't want to be judgmental. She'll have these little containers with these cute little, like, bows and, like, little doughy balls and cute shapes, and I'm just like, oh, so cute. Just like, I'm probably deathly allergic to that, whatever it is, but it's like, it's so cute, and like, I'm gonna do that now with my food. I'm gonna duct tape my freaking dehydrator together tomorrow and make cute food. My cute food is just going to be seeds, and I think I'm going to dehydrate some pumpkin, hopefully tomorrow, before they leak all over my carpet. But just realizing that we've been in school, we're taking care of relatives, we're working, we're screaming, we're having all over, paying high food and rent, and having a degree as doctors, but not necessarily working, having external degrees. Like, she has extra degrees, I have extra degrees, and we're still working towards actually working, and it's like, why do some people, especially majority Americans, make it look so easy? And I think part of it is they have a hand up. They have that mentor that doesn't, what's the point? We have mentors that beat us down and tell us we can't do it, and that we don't deserve to pass, and we don't deserve to work as a doctor. When we earn the same degree, we pass the same classes, we pass the same tests as the other non-people of color, But we're told that no, people like you can't do this job. And so it really makes it heartbreaking to have this emotion blocking your success. And not only do you have this emotion, you also have people doing everything they can to restrict you from, because the people that are doing it, they're not giving you a hand up. They're basically like your major competition. Especially, if they think that you're just loud, you can't do anything. If you are any type of threat to them, we had a German pastor who complained about all these Mexicans coming to the schools and having to get rid of classes so that they can have English as a second language. And it's very interesting because it's like she came from a wealthy to, or whatever reason, as an immigrant. And she's complaining about Mexican Americans, kids that are born in this country, whose parents worked in this country, whose parents pay their taxes, and are citizens, and happen to speak Spanish at home, and they're giving English as a second language, so that they have a chance at actually, unless they're going to speak the whole classes in Spanish, they need to learn English so that they can get through school, so they can graduate high school, and not be thugs and drug dealers and, pimps and stuff. Like, allow though, she was an immigrant and she directly complained about other immigrants that came here to get away from crime and poverty. And she came from a wealthy Western nation to get away, I don't know, because people get fixated on, Iceland sounds cool, Switzerland sounds cool, I'm going to go there. They meet their relatives that they're it's God's plan. I just felt like so many people was like looking at themselves in the mirror but saying, I can do it, but you can't. And she would also say, I had to pay a bunch of money and you probably didn't. And it's like, I have refugees, I know refugees, and I know people that are our U.S. government, they have degrees, education, medical degrees and stuff, IT. Our government will pay for them and their families to come here. They'll pay for their visas, they'll pay for their housing, and Syrian refugees. What about all of the other refugees that come in every day that the U.S. government pays for that nobody's talking about? It's just because now that somebody decided to put it in the news, like, you people are ignorant. You're sheep. You see a major news story that someone shared on Facebook, and then someone else shared it, and someone else shared it, and all of a sudden it becomes trendy to talk about. And it's like, you don't realize this is happening for eons, and the people you voted into office support the very thing that you're against, because you were sheep and you followed what everyone else, the popular crowd, said was cool. And if you didn't like it in the first place, why did you vote these people in office? Like, if you didn't like it in the first place, why didn't you make noise? Because people were doing this for eons since you've been an adult, and you never paid attention. You never waited for to make a fuss and cuss about it, and they didn't even get the story straight. You read it, you're like, they didn't even get the story right. And if you had paid attention, and I'm not saying you can know everything all the time, but if they had paid attention to the news a few years ago, then they would have gotten some people together and some funding and challenged it. But because nobody challenged it a few years ago, or a generation ago, or decades ago, the government's like, this is what we do, this is our style, and we're not doing anything different. It's just, now that it's in the news, people are getting fussy. But it's like, I know a whole bunch of refugees and immigrants and people that have educational degrees that come here and given jobs, and me and my family are living in poverty, and we've been in the military, and we've been slaves, and we got the education, we paid our taxes, we paid our bills, we worked our butts off, at these low-paying jobs and have nothing to show for it. Then we build up our education, and now we're not able to get the jobs because other people have been brought in to take those same jobs. And it's up to that HR department to decide how much they want to allow American versus American, and it's also up to everyone. Just like, I don't know, it's like they bring in people to work, but they also exclude certain groups of people because people will see me and my kids doing something, like, say my kids were violinists and piano players, excellent, like almost savant, which I'm not saying is an insult. Natural talent, and we have it as a genetic thing. Things through our veins, mathematics runs through our veins, physics and stuff like that. I don't know, it's like numbers, and music is just excellent with my kids, and art. But it's like, as a black person going up and having your kids dressed up in their little suits and ties, going with their violins to play in a recital, and we can't even freaking afford the class. We need a scholarship, like literally broke. But this is keeping them, their behavior clean. This is keeping them from being out in the street with these other kids who act like gangsters. We're inside playing the violin and not learning how to cuss and spit and beat up people smaller than you. So I feel like people will look at me and say, no, your kids can't be violinists, your kids can't be musicians and artists, your kids can't be smart and go to college. Kids are stupid, and then they'll be all offended. But what they don't think about in the future is they'll complain about black people and drug dealers and people murdering people they see on the news, and gangs, and violence, and rallies and protests in Ferguson. But they don't realize, like, if we were all getting the proper education and having access to music and art and not just sports, or for the select few, and it's not even all of us are not athletes. I was an athlete, but I was kind of lazy. But it's just like, it's better for the entire community. And why do you have to point at me because I'm black and say your kids can't be violinists, you can't be a doctor, your daughter can't be a fantastic, miraculous artist, your kids can't be passing and skipping high school the way they are. And people will put a block on me, and they'll make me feel bad, and then I'll go home and amped up heart rate and hypertension because I'm like, this white person again today told me I can't do this. And it's like, because I'm going against the grain, or going against the, I always call it the, the current. I'm swimming against the current uphill, and everyone else is floating down on tubes getting a suntan, and I'm going uphill, fighting shots with bare hands to get to the same goal. But for some reason, I've got to work that much harder and that much opposition. And that's what's hard, is because it wears you out. And so that's why I took a break today to make this long video, because I'm exhausted and I'm not feeling. I let myself down. Everyone was coughing around me, and I was like, whatever. I made sure to wash my hands and not breathe on anyone. Purposely, drink my tea. As a single parent in a house with no friends or family, and very few friends, and no family in town, no support with the kids, no help, trying to work in an office by myself, no office manager, anyone, no assistant, no co-workers. It's crazy. Just went to bed, I said, get up, take a shower, wash your hair, and just get dressed, and just get in the car and go, and then do some work, take care of your kids like you're supposed to, because that's taking your lunch break. Boom. And unfortunately, the schedule that I've been following, that everyone else wants me to follow, that I had no say in, have always cut out my activities. 90% of my kids' school activities we skip. Some of them are optional, some of them are mandatory. We skip some are very, there'd be very excellent opportunities for them. The school's already paying for it, or sometimes they have to pay for field trips, but it would be excellent opportunity. I'm skipping 90% and doing just the major mandatory things, because it's school, it's the law. And so my whole schedule pretty much is other people's opinion of what my schedule should be. Some of it, like the state program, you do what they say because they're trying to help you get ahead. Unfortunately, it doesn't always match up with what you're doing, but when it's between paying your rent and not paying your rent, it becomes important. It becomes like, this is serious. This is not, we're gonna get a not. Are we gonna get a roast duck this year or not? It's the difference between, are we gonna freaking pay our rent in 12 days or not? Or whatever it is, 10 days. Like, it's like, you know, who cares? We're not paying attention to health. We're not paying attention to the hole in my tooth. We're not paying attention to washing a car right now or ironing my clothes, which I would, that's on the back burner. But we're paying attention to everyone else's schedule is making it that I'm not able to pay my rent. And I have to sit down and do these stacks of paperwork and fill out these things. I mean, it sucks. You know, my dad was trying to tell me, oh, you're letting all these people jeopardize your life and you're not doing what people are telling you to do. And that's why another reason contributing to this type that you're lazy, that you're not doing your work, and that they told you to do something, you signed a contract and you didn't do it, and it made me feel horrible. And some of the circumstances, it's like an article I read, which is not racially biased, about successful people. A lot of it is the people that were like contractors doing work for company, not necessarily sitting at a desk having their boss look over and making sure they're working, which for some reason work in the boss, their problem, not mine. But when you're doing contracting work, you're sitting on your computer and sitting up all night pulling your hair out and trying to fix stuff, and you lost everything because your computer came unplugged or your hamster chewed through the cord or whatever happened. And they said to communicate about it, and I think that's, for me, actually, and this articles written like, communicate about them, let them know, check in, tell them what you're doing. And for me, lately, when I communicate about it, people try to get me to find my actions, and I say, look, if I don't work today, I don't eat today. If I don't work tomorrow, I don't pay rent in 10 days. And it's black and white to me. And it's like, they're going to be like, you're lying. You're just exaggerating. Someone else will take care of you. I'm like, I'm not married, I don't live with a partner, I'm the only adult in my house. I might borrow money from my kid who's working, but she's getting minimum wage part-time. That's not going to cover the rent, even if, you know, she's not even getting paid. When she gets paid. But it's like, try to sell some books. Some of the books are gone from my shelves. Some of them I didn't sell. I sold some this summer, actually, but not very many. Which is all also my to-do list, is to sit down and go through Powell books online and see if I can sell a book, because that will be working on January's rent. But yeah, it gets to be where we've lived outside in a tent and we were younger. It was kind of cute. It sucked. It really did. No running water, no food, no money. But when you're younger, oh, this is kind of primitive. We can live off the land, but like Native Americans back in the day. It doesn't really work in the modern world because somebody owns that land and you can't really just do what you want with it. You can't just start gardening and hunting for no reason. Like, you have to like own it or be on it for so many days and then they kick you off. But, or pay rent or whatever you have to do that actually takes money, which you don't have. So, as an adult, as an older person that's got injuries, and with teenagers that need to have internet for school, and I want them to be able to not be homeless right now, it becomes like almost life-threatening. Like, so sometimes, even my kids were young, it was cute, carry around a baby and be like, I'm living in a tent with a baby. But that was very temporarily until we slept on people's floor. But it's like, I am trying to be an entrepreneur, career person, and cooperative living, if desperately speaking, would be an option, but not just holding on to someone's house, maintaining to be an adult themselves, take care of their own kids and their own pets and their own jobs. You know, I feel like I need to have more space and be responsible. And I feel very, very irresponsible. I've been getting a lot of bad advice as well, and some of this bad advice is making me dope, you know. I knew some people that took bad advice and they lost their house because they paid the wrong bills. You see Dave Ramsey say, don't pay your credit card bills. He's not saying don't pay your credit card bills. He says don't take out credit. What he's saying is you lost your, you have your everything set up. And most of the people that he's talking to has a mortgage, not a rent. You pay your mortgage ASAP. You sell it. Even if you just sell your car, even if you're still paying on your car, just... And he's not saying for 2 years just ignore your credit card. They call and the creditors are threatening you. But he's saying maintain your house and then maintain food, utilities, and chop out of your budget and eat the cheapest food that you can find anywhere on the shelf. You know, Joyce Meyer would talk about back in the day where she would eat canned goods that had no labels, and she would have that mystery dinner. She would open a couple of his cans and make a stew or whatever out of it. And I told my kids I was gonna do that with them. I was like, I probably should have said it. I was like, the only thing they sell now, they won't sell those cans. They'll sell the dented cans. I'm kind of scared of those because they say don't do that. Like dented, messed up tops. I accidentally buy dented cans sometimes. I just pray that I don't poison anyone with them. But I rent and don't mortgage right now. I wish I mortgaged, but I used to own a house I paid cash. I don't even understand mortgages. I never had one. I paid cash for a house I lived in before, and now I pay a ridiculous amount of rent. In 8 months, about 10 months of rent here is the amount I paid for a house cash back in the Midwest-ish area, and it's unbelievable because about $100,000 house 5 years ago, I would have been halfway done paying for it with the rent I paid and the projects here that's overpriced. But one way or another, I feel like having been homeless multiple times and even moving into a cheap house and having nothing and barely having running water and barely having the ability to take a shower, it makes it for you to get a job. And even if you're getting free clothes from the clothing bank and free food, it makes it difficult when you can't afford nail clippers and your nails are gnarly. It makes it difficult if you can't shave, if your hair is all knotted and you wearing everything you have is stained and torn. You're wearing the nicest clothes, the stained and torn, mismatched buttons, and it is the best that you can do. And you walk into a place and people, and even have one decent outfit and one way to pull your hair back and one way to cut your nails and clean them and take a good shower and put on deodorants and maybe have little earrings or something to make you look, pretty. If you could have one outfit that you can keep clean and just take it off right away and hang it back in the closet and iron it, that wouldn't be all the difference in the world. I tried so many years to get a job wearing the bags, and it was my hair still. I wear headbands. Someone's honking at one like crazy. But yeah, that's my cue. I just have empathy with that, and I hate going out in public with torn up clothes. And that sweater that's sitting over there is in the process of being sewed because as soon as I got it, all the buttons fell off, and I was just like, when that's all I have in the laundry that's clean, I wear it, because I don't want to. I'd rather wear something with missing buttons and pretend I'm doing it on purpose than stinky or something, torn up and raggedy. I have these clothes that I've had for years, and I'm like, this is my good sweatshirt. I'm like, oh. And you'll see people out in public, and from far away they'll look clean cut, like some gray haired guy, clean cut with a pair of nice glasses on, nice clean shoes, and he'll have that appearance, he'll have a good posture, voice, educated. He'll be like, oh, that guy sounds, like you glance at him like, that guy's got his stuff together, he's clean cut, he doesn't stink, he's got a posture, he's got an attitude. And you might look closely, he's like 70-something years old, and he's wearing an old gray sweatshirt and old gray sweatpants that looks like this, but also his positive attitude and his, that's probably very clothes, washed, like that's what he put on that morning, just like what I put on this morning, but everything else about him was clean cut. It wasn't like when we were out in the woods and you're wearing this raggedy sweatshirt you've been wearing for 3 weeks, and that's the only clothes you have for the weather type. You don't even own a coat, and you're laying on the ground sleeping outside with a wild animal, hair sticking up in the air like a wild woman, and your nails all nasty and long and dirty, stinky, bad breath, because you don't have any toothbrush. You don't really have that. Then there's a different aura, and then you go into a place and you see people with clothes and Starbucks drinks and walking their poodles, and you're like, oh my god, I'm super poor, and I look like I'm poor, and I'm scared someone's gonna think I'm gonna rob them. And then you don't have even the person. You could switch clothes with someone, and they would still have a different, self-esteem about them. So yeah, I think too much about how I let myself slip into homelessness and severe poverty, and how I let other people kind of push solidify my poverty or just solidify my homelessness. So I think the red flags that are going on right now is this is happening again and again and again. So I was 17, and I don't want it to happen again, and I don't want to drag my kids down. If they're grown and living on their own, and I decided to let someone push me into homelessness again, unfortunately it happens whether you want it to or not. But if you have a stack of papers, and you got a bunch of phone calls, and you got a bunch of stuff to fax, and if you have to sell books to go buy printer ink so that you can print this thing and buy stamps, you can mail this important document that's time sensitive, that's what I'm trying to do now. And I'm scrambling to do it, and if I tell somebody, hey, I didn't go to this appointment because I had this deadline that's tomorrow or tonight at 5, and they're going to be like, oh, you should have done that weeks ago. And it's like, weeks ago I had different deadlines. I had different things that were going on. And it makes me feel like I'm being careless. But the same people that say that, they've got a whole bunch of adults and allies and spouse to help them meet these deadlines and to help them take care of their house and their kids. So when you're doing everything, if you're either bad people, diarrhea, you may say, oh, let me step out for a minute and go check back something, but you may not sit on the computer for 6 hours and write a business plan. You may try, but your kids is going to need you, and this could be a bigger mess, and you want them to know that you love them and that you're going to make sure they don't die of dehydration. It's just like this instinct of raising your kids. A lot of that comes first. And it's also going to neglect your kids and let them in their mess, in their diarrhea, and just like be like, sorry, I'm going to do something for somebody else, and then I'm going to come home and stay up all night and write this 17-page business plan, and then as an adult, I feel like I have to do what I have to do, and right now, I am fixating on being given the opportunity to be God, entrepreneurship. I'm being fixated on flicking people out of my life that are bothering me, and setting boundaries of people that aren't bothering me. But my thing is, I'm being fearful of people that are harassing me because I decided nobody hired me for a job. I need to work to earn money to raise my family and myself, even if I didn't have kids. It's a lot easier to say I'm doing it for my family, or maybe I should say I'm doing it for myself, and it'll trickle down to else.